7:43. Good morning to you, watching and listening to Breakfast with Stephen and Ellie, live from the Palace this morning. Let's go through the papers for you with writer and journalist Emma Wolfe and co-founder of Together, Alan Miller. Good to see you both this morning. Emma, let's start with you. We just had Brenda messages saying one of her key moments was seeing Prince Harry laughing and smiling with his cousins and with Princess Anne. But the Sunday Times this morning saying the Prince looked tired and miserable, and the elegant opinion might have been to stay away. I'm sort of glad he didn't stay away from the coronation.
Yeah, I mean, some people say that they saw him smiling and laughing, but I think a lot of people saw quite a lonely figure, quite a solitary figure, who didn't really have a place. He certainly didn't have a place amongst his family, and was seated, some distance back behind Prince Anne's now iconic feathered hat. Yeah, this is a piece in the Sunday Times from Camilla Long, who is both funny and sad. I mean, she's pretty acerbic anyway, but she's saying that the elegant option would have been to stay away, that actually, she says a line that really stood out for me was, what a mess of hurt, stupidity, ego and silliness. And I think there is a sense actually of sadness about all this. As far as we know, Prince Harry didn't talk or see his father or his brother. And I think, as much as we have had a kind of royal circus around Prince Harry and Meghan and were they coming and were they not, actually that's a really sad situation, that perhaps he didn't even exchange words with William and with Charles on that day. Yes, he did attend, but it seems that he was in the UK for around 24 hours. He certainly left straight after the ceremony. He went straight out to a waiting car and went back to the airport to go back for his 4-year-old son's birthday. So I don't know how he'll feel about the fact that he did attend, whether that was a good idea. Camilla Long's view in the Sunday Times is that it would have been better not to come because he just looked so isolated. But then again, we have to remember, it was his choice to leave the country, and it was his choice, crucially, to publish Spare in January, which was an extremely, offensive and unkind, and we can use all sorts of words about this, but it was an extremely offensive memoir talking about King Charles's wife, Camilla, and all of that. So I think Harry has made his bed, and now we see him lying in it.
Well, I think that's fair enough in a lot of ways, but I think he would have been criticised whatever he did. That's part of the problem. Mind you, sticking with the Camilla theme, Alan, this is in the Sunday Mirror. Looking back at her, I mean, we could say checkered history, I guess, because she was deeply unpopular, and she has now become, obviously, the Queen of the United Kingdom.
Indeed. I think the thing is, it speaks to a lot of things. It speaks to the fact that, on the one hand, unlike Harry, I think many would respect the Queen Camilla now, is what she is, for her stoicism, a sense of getting on with duty and with being quiet about privacy and private matters, on the one hand. It's also interesting because Andrew Morton's written this piece about looking at the changing mores of Britain, of how divorce was not even allowed with the Church of England, how things were seen very differently, and what our web of meaning, what the things that we all agree with are now. And I think that question about hearts for everyone is important. I think the other thing that we all should think about and reflect on is it just that it's a regal, ceremonial thing that is tradition and brings money, or is it also political? Because there is still a royal prerogative, and some people are concerned about that question, the idea that the House of Commons and Lords can be overruled. And it might be, for instance, that the new king says, well, actually, I think that something's really important, like the climate or whatever, and you guys, like Tony Blair and Keir Starmer have said about Westminster, it's a bit of a pesky, messy business. So that is a question for everyone still, but I do think on reflection, Camilla has demonstrated quite a robust sense of duty, unlike some of the younger generations, which have been a kind of tell-all situation, much more wear your heart on your sleeves, and it shows that distinction between the two.
Yeah. I don't think there's any danger of the royal prerogative being used to override anything. I think that's not going to happen, is it? But as you say, I mean, she does seem to be one for duty, and let's be honest, Charles seems a much happier man, doesn't he? He's got the woman he loves by his side, and that clearly makes a huge difference to him.
Yeah, and I think she puts up with him or manages Charles well. I mean, we know that he's not an easy man. Do you remember that scene a few months back where he was sort of chucking pens around and saying that he wasn't happy with this bloody fountain pen, that kind of thing? We know that Camilla deals with this sort of
I thought that was
outbursts.
quite nice.
Yeah, it was funny, but I'm just saying.
I quite like that. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think she deals with that side of him quite well and has been, by his side through those ups and downs, and is able to cope with that side of our king.
Yeah. Well, look, we've got to leave it there, sadly, because I know it's been really tight for time this morning, but thank you both very much indeed. If you think Charles is hard work, Emma, you should deal with Ellie Costello. She's just stormed off to have she's just stormed off for a croissant and a cup of coffee. I mean, it's terrible.
Well, we're keeping her seat warm here.
Thank you both. Well, good. Oh, she's a madam. She's a madam, but she will come back at some point.